Good evening and welcome to episode 41 of The Green Arrow, an FPL podcast by Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to Gameweek 13 and beyond. My name is Fergie and a good evening to my co-host Adam Hopcroft. Adam, what colour was your arrow in Gameweek 12?
It was another green arrow, I'm pleased to report. Thanks to Jamie Vardy and James Justin. I was heading into that game on a small red arrow, so yeah, really pleased. What about you? How did you go?
Didn't have the best. I had 47, so I've got a red arrow. So I've just seen that you've overtaken me. So you've got a green, I've got a red, and you've overtaken me in the overall rankings now for the first time in a few weeks. I was going really, really well. I've had a couple of kind of stop-start weeks at the moment, which is a bit annoying. But obviously didn't have Salah. A thoroughly deserved 16 points off, a really exhilarating, exuberant performance from Salah. I can't believe, he should have had 4 or 5 the way he played. I thought, he deserved more than the 8 points he got. I thought
it was a world-class penalty as well, wasn't it? Keeper had no chance.
I couldn't believe it. I had like this little cheeky kind of smile on my face all evening because he didn't have a sniff, did he? He had one snapshot, I think, towards the end of the first half. But yeah,
I felt watching it, and I don't know if others felt the same, that I just wanted the ball to keep going in the box, and I was really hoping that Liverpool would get a penalty. That was the only way, because the frustrating thing watching the game, Salah was dropping quite deep and quite wide, and I think Liverpool struggled overall in the match, but I was really hoping for a penalty. But then when he was running up to take it, as the first time Salah owned this season, I wasn't confident. So, thankfully it went in. And I didn't realise at the time, a few posted in the hub chat, didn't they, that he was about to come off.
He was about to come off as a sub just before they won the free kick, I think, wasn't it? Which obviously led to the handball. So we would have had a 2-pointer. 4-point captain ends up on 16. I can't be bitter. Just disappointed.
You'd have taken that though, wouldn't you? Before, if you'd have said as a non-Salah owner he's going to get 8 points, you'd have probably taken that, wouldn't you?
I think so, but I still think if Jota was fit, he would have played. We've got some time. When I say I think Jota can match Salah, I mean value. I don't mean point for point. I mean value-wise. And Salah did nothing yesterday, right? So who's to say that if Jota won on the pitch, he would have done something and matched him? But anyway, we will see for that. So yeah, just got your team, your points up on the screen now, Adam. Justin, as you say, 11 points from Justin. Absolutely beautiful for you. I've got to be fair. I missed the boat on Justin because there was always this thing of like Pereira will be back soon, but he's just kept on doing it. He looks so dangerous, doesn't he?
I always thought with Justin, it seems that Rodgers trusts him a lot because he's playing a lot in the Europa League as well. And I think with the injury that Pereira had, it was a really, really serious one. Yeah. So they don't tend to rush players back from those sort of injuries, particularly with the amount of games coming up. So I think watching him last night, particularly when he moved over to the right side, he was brilliant. It was and I think Brighton allowed. I don't know if they tweaked the formation slightly, but they seemed to get a lot of space down the right. And there were a couple of instances before where he could have teed up Vardy. So yeah, I was pleased with Justin. Thought he had a good game, and that was needed. And there was one moment where, because I was half watching the game, and I put it back on and to see that Vardy scored, and then it was that horrible 3-minute delay where they went to VAR. It was a Justin assist, Owen Justin. It was a Vardy goal, and they put the lines up. And it's very, very rare that they spend that long and the goal ends up being given. So that was a huge, huge relief. I think So yeah, that game was brilliant as both Vardy and Justin owner. I think there's a few other things that interest me. So McCarthy, so he got a clean sheet. I was really surprised. I went back and looked at this, but Southampton have kept clean sheets at home to West Brom, Everton, Newcastle and Sheffield United. And what's really interesting, if you go and understand, look at the XG for all of those matches, Sheffield United 0.22, Newcastle 0.18, Everton 0.29 and West Brom 0.16. So they've absolutely nailed that at home versus the non-6 teams. So whether McCarthy's the best option, I'm not sure in terms of the Southampton defence, but I think they've really, really they're a great option going forwards for those type of games. I think I was let down by a few players, so I think De Bruyne had a chance, didn't he? He probably should have got something.
I think he thought he was offside because he was, or whoever passed to him was offside because he looked surprised to get it, like on the edge of the 6-yard box, kind of right in front of goal, and I think it got blocked. But he cut a frustrated figure, didn't he? They obviously had their orders on the weekend, which was just don't lose. It's not him, is it? And he could tell he was trying to rally everyone around him, make runs, come on, but they just weren't having it, were they? But
he had a couple of chances, didn't he? I thought he looked good, and I think the returns will keep coming for him. I think other players, I've got 2 penalty assists from DCL and Bamford. I think it was just a marginal offside that probably deprived Calvert-Lewin of a second one. So I was pleased with him, and I'm pleased that I stuck with him because I think for paying 7 million, I think he's at the start of the season, he's just going to be involved in everything Everton do.
Right.
And I was really pleased with Ancelotti's tactics because I think that it seemed that they've seemed very imbalanced, I felt, over maybe the last 3 or 4 weeks, with no natural wide fullbacks. With James Rodriguez, I don't think does the yards defensively. So I actually think that the way they set up was brilliant, and I think they're going to be, they're a threat on the counter, and hopefully they'll set up similarly against Everton. Because we could do some more Calvert-Lewin returns. So yeah, overall for me, it was a good week. 69, green arrow. I set myself a target at game week 8 to get into the top 500,000. I've done that. I'm 460 something, probably on the screen so everyone can see. So I'm telling everyone I haven't got a clue myself. And what I'm doing as well is I'm setting myself targets every 4 weeks. So by game week 20, I always set this every season. I want to be in the top 100k. So I'm on track to do that. I've still got a wild card. By 16, if I can be in the top 250,000, that I'd be delighted with that. So I think you've always said it, looking at it as chunks rather than single game weeks. So because you're always going to get that fluctuation where you go slightly up, slightly down. But if you look at it as a block of 4, I think it really helps. So who were the stars in your team then? How did you get on?
I had Martinez, so I got off to an absolute flyer because that was really unexpected, and obviously got an 11-pointer, which was superb. I did have both Creswell and Soucek on my bench for the game on Friday night. Fortunately, Creswell came off the bench for Jota, but Soucek remains rooted on the bench.
Why did you start Creswell in terms of bench order anyway? Yeah. Why was Creswell ahead of Soucek? What was you thinking there?
Because I just think with defenders, with attacking defenders, especially those on corners and free kicks, I just think there's more kind of avenues to point. So I think there's more chance of Creswell getting a clean sheet or an attacking return than Soucek getting an attacking return. And over the season, I think that is probably right. But yeah, it's only 4 points, not the end of the world. When Soucek scored, I was like, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it. Captained De Bruyne was very disappointed with the way that whole game panned out. I mean, that was such a strange game. It was almost played at walking pace, a lot of it. Or just awful. Awful game of football, awful tactics. And I was really surprised at Pep and Man City because I've personally never seen them play like that before. And it was also like they were scared of Man United, who had just played midweek, just been knocked out of the Champions League and having an absolute mare of a season. And they just basically...
Do you think they were scarred from last season?
Yeah, I do.
In the matches where they got hit on the cat, yeah.
But I think it's they're a far better team than Man United, and they if they've got ambition of winning the league and challenging Liverpool, there's no way that Liverpool would have gone there, for example, and played like that, right? Spurs might, because Spurs are not as good a team as Man City. But
although they did beat them 6-1.
Yes, yeah, well, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But, I don't know. I was disappointed.
Well, Chelsea did it as well, didn't they? That was a very similar game, but pretty much both teams accepting a 0-0, which you don't want to see. But I think maybe they're thinking that this season is so close that they don't want to give their rivals 3 points. That would be whereas I think last season,
but they're not rivals. I think this is my point. Spurs and Chelsea are rivals at the moment for the title, and definitely for top 4. Man United are not Man City's rivals. They've
got more points. Yeah, but I think in terms of the league position at the moment, they are right next to Man City. So.
Yeah, but Man City will finish in the top 3, whereas Man United will probably finish 6th, maybe. But anyway, that's how I feel.
I was disappointed, but I think one of the reasons for it, Man City are terrible when they concede first. They're really, really bad. If you look, particularly in the bigger matches, I think they did against Liverpool and come back and drew, but there's been very few instances over the last few seasons where City have gone a goal behind and gone on to win the game. So I think that have deliberately tried to keep it tight and hoping that they can get a goal and then just see out a 1-0, or then be afforded the luxury to play on the counter. But you're right, it was a frustrating game to watch.
It was awful. It was an awful day of football, wasn't it? Because I think there was a 1-0.
I was delighted. It's a great day of football. I think, yeah, exactly. I think you can't get better than a last minute win. But I think just going back to that, so you captained De Bruyne now.
Yeah.
And I know you put in our chat, didn't you, about should I go De Bruyne or Ings? I'm pretty sure I said Ings straight away. And I think, what do you not regret that in hindsight? Looking back at.
Probably not, because I think if Man United, if City would have gone for it and have played the way I expected them to, he nearly returned playing in that sort of game. Man City would have gone for it a little bit. I think, he would have returned. So, obviously Ings got his assist. And the only reason, the main reason I went for De Bruyne over Ings after was I was convinced De Bruyne would get 90 and Ings just back from injury may get 60 or 70. But, I'm fine with it. Again, it's only a couple of points, right?
Ings was unlucky, wasn't he? Really?
He had 5 shots, I think. So he could have easily had a bit of a haul.
Missed 2 big chances. Yeah, it was a bit unlucky.
And had I had the returns off Son and Bamford as expected. So, like I say, 47. It's not great. It's my, it's a red arrow, 650k. But again, looking at my season, kind of a block. Game week, kind of 7 and 8. I was ranked about 1.9 million. In 3 weeks, I managed to get up to 450,000. Back down now to 650. But again, looking at it as a kind of a 5 or 6 week game week block, I'm up from 1.9 million to 650k, which is fine, and I've got a good team. Happy going into next week. We'll look now. And just to kind of finish off the weekend's review, I suppose, Arsenal looking big trouble, and Fulham. I mean, what's going on at Fulham? They're absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure now when we kind of look at their players, I've certainly got my eye on 1 or 2 moving forward.
Fulham were brilliant, and I think that particularly that first half, they thoroughly deserved to go
fantastic.
In. They thoroughly deserve, and I think they've done what a lot of teams have done with Liverpool, about countering them, and they've got a lot. I think they've looked better, not only since they've sort of changed the personnel at the back, but they've looked better since they've dropped Mitrovic. Because I think the problem with Mitrovic, when I watched them against Villa earlier in the season, all their tactics is just cross it to Mitrovic. Whereas now they've got genuine pace and some great movement. And I think combination of Decorah Reed, of Caballero and Lookman, they've got genuine pace. And I think they'll cause teams problems. So I think they've got a chance of staying up. I think that's probably the biggest compliment we can pay them, is that, to the way they play. Jess, I mean, Scott Parker deserves a lot of credit, because it was a bold decision to just take Mitrovic out of the team, and I think it's paid off massively with the personnel he's put in there. So, and I think Anguissa looks brilliant as well, top player. So, fair play to Fulham. Arsenal, on the other hand, oh dear,
what is going on there? They've just fallen off a cliff, haven't they? Incredible.
Yeah, they have, and I think they seem to lack creativity, because I don't know how many I think they've only scored against Wolves, but then is it like 1 goal in however many games? So they're a good bet for a clean sheet. Firstly, and I don't know what to think of them, to be honest. Are they, they're not going to be having any Arsenal players for a while. Definite avoid. I was listening to General's pod earlier, and I think he was like, "Which are there any teams you wouldn't invest in?" And Arsenal are one of those teams.
Definitely.
So yeah, I'm sure. Hopefully it will turn around at some point. But yeah, it's not good at the moment.
Not okay. So welcome everyone. As we are live, please feel free to join in the chat at any time, as you are. It's already very, very busy in the chat. Great stuff. Let us know your thoughts on the topics of the relevant sections, and feel free to ask any questions. Good evening to Strinjoy, Jones Bloke 79. Hope you had a better week this week, Jones Bloke, than your minus okay. Last week. James Curtis, FPL Geordie, Poster Points, Arsenal fan, Oliver Ash, Sam Jackson, Jonathan Ajau, Tommy Lowell, Miss M Tech, Michael Anderson, and Joel Easley. Welcome all. We'll go through and try and answer a few questions as we go through.
And if you had a disastrous -8, please comment.
Bring on the -8.
We'll see if Fergie can keep a straight face.
Goodness me. We'll try. We've already had a couple of questions about Cap KDB or Bruno. Cap KDB or Bruno for Gameweek 30. We will answer that later. We've got a whole kind of section on that later. Don't worry about that. Obviously, a really important part. So for any new watchers and listeners, if you haven't subscribed yet, please press the subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of the screen and set the alerts so you don't miss our live streams, which are usually 8 PM every Wednesday right here on this channel. Also, please press the like button if you enjoy our content. So tonight we will be looking ahead to the Christmas period as a whole and the best options to hold for each position, going all the way through from goalkeepers, who obviously not very exciting, so we'll just kind of skip over those. We'll look at defenders, midfielders and forward, the best one to hold over the Christmas period. Please feel free at any time to suggest some options to us in the chat. We will reveal our Game Week 13 teams and plans, although I've got to be honest, I haven't really got a clue what to do because all my plans were chucked up and and burnt up in smoke when Jota had that. Why didn't they just say he's going to be out? But because it was this knock, I left him in, and that messed up my plans because I got Ings. And I wouldn't have got Ings had I known about that. I would have found a way to get Salah in anyway.
If only there was a perfect replacement who plays the worst team in the league at home and is about that price.
There is. We'll look at that as well in a bit. We'll also look ahead to Game Week 14 a little bit because we're not going to have time to record again before the deadline. And we'll also look at the best captaincy options for Game Week 13 and 14. We'll give the competition results from Game Week 12 and also give away another prize this week. You won't want to miss it. And finally, we will take a look at the top of our podcast mini league. So for our YouTube viewers, we now have a graphic up from one of our weekly articles from Fantasy Football Hub, courtesy of the brilliant Holly Shand, showing the most recent form versus fixtures for the next 4 weeks, which shows the blend of the teams with the best form and the teams with the best fixtures. This shows that Liverpool are still top, Man City is second, Leeds are third, Man United fourth, Fulham fifth, West Ham, and then Villa. Then looking down the bottom, Sheffield United, Wolves, Arsenal, and Everton actually. So Arsenal, Everton, and Wolves are kind of rooted to the bottom there when you combine fixtures with form. So in terms of looking ahead now, Adam, to the next 3, 4, 5 sort of game weeks, which teams are you kind of thinking about targeting?
Without jinxing it too much, there is a certain team that has nice fixtures, which I refuse to mention because I get accused of being biased. But let's just say they won with a last-minute penalty against the local rivals the weekend. So I think Villa have got good fixtures. I think
they have.
The downside is they've got a couple of suspensions. So I think particularly Douglas Luiz being out, that could impact them negatively.
Yeah.
So we'll see on that. They've got good fixtures. I think Fulham have got nice fixtures as well. We talked about them, and we'll talk a bit about them later on. Brighton have got okay fixtures, but I'm not going anywhere near them. They're terrible, aren't they? As Tom from who got the assist says, all fart, no poo.
Yeah,
that's what they are. I mean, they're a bit disappointing. I think who else do I like from fit? And I think if you're looking at the big hitters, I think United have got some nice fixtures coming up. I think Liverpool on paper have got some okay fixtures. So anyone, and obviously City are probably the big one I haven't mentioned. I mean, who stands out to you that from a fixture point of view?
We're looking at both 4-man fixtures. So I think that Leeds going forward, not in defence, they look awful in defence. I think Leeds will do so. I've got Bamford in my team, but I'm sure we'll mention it more now, kind of as we go through. But Leeds fixtures for the next kind of 8 or 9 game weeks are really, really nice. Man City have got a fantastic run of fixtures now all the way through, so I'm very, very tempted to bring in a Man City defender this week. To kind of complement my De Bruyne pick. It's so hard to pick the attackers. Anyone apart from De Bruyne. Aguero trained apparently this afternoon, so he may be in line for a start tomorrow, or if not, definitely on the weekend and stuff. So it's so hard. So I think. Looking at a defender there, the way Fulham played last night. I've only watched Fulham play live a couple of times this season. One was really early on when they were awful, but last night they were fantastic, and I've got my eye on a couple of their boys as well. Southampton, from a form view, so they are the second most informed team in the league over the last 4. Their fixtures are kind of a little bit mixed, but again, the way they played yesterday I thought was really, really impressive. And as you mentioned earlier, from both a defensive and attacking view, they look like a really good team. Villa have got a really nice next 3. There are a bunch of teams who've got a nice next 3, and then it's kind of jump off time perfect for the wild card. And as you mentioned, Fulham and Villa just as examples. And West Ham are the other team for a couple of reasons. Moyes is obviously turn them right round. They've got really good fixtures for a long time, and they are the only team at the moment that've got that confirmed double as well in Game Week 19. West Ham against West Brom, aren't they? So I think those as well.
West Ham are interesting because I feel that they're a team that almost every player is a potential option. Maybe Declan Rice, you wouldn't have him being listed as a midfielder. But they've got Fabianski's a bit of an FPL legend, and I think he could be a good set and forget keeper. You look across the back; they've got defenders for everyone. So Balbuena and Ogbonna are getting a lot of chances from corners. They're deadly from set pieces. You've got the creativity and open play from Kufal. Creswell on set pieces. You look further forward, you've got Bowen, we've got Souček, who seems to come off people's benches for fun and help with the bench scores. You've got, and then I think even when you go for Ben Rama's just come into the team. I even think if this might be pushing it a little bit, but I think if Antonio is out and for a stretch period, I think Haller had a lot of chance or looked quite lively the other night and possibly unlucky not to score. So I think they're a team with a lot of options, and the fixtures I think are okay. And I think when West Ham are all right, in my opinion, they're not too bad against the tougher teams. I think they tend to do okay. So
yeah, their next 3 they've got Palace, Chelsea, and Bright. A couple of them at home, which are obviously quite nice. They're then away to Southampton, Everton, which are not very nice. But after that, then they've got a really nice run of West Brom at home, Burnley at home. So this is from game week 18 onwards as well, which double sort of game week time as well there. So I think that they've their fixtures are on and off, but they've got a nice long run of fixtures, and they're playing really, really well. They've had a lot of clean sheets and playing well. So I think West Ham are going to be good. Do you think? Well, it probably was a pertinent question, and it was asked in the chat earlier actually. But home fans making a difference. I personally think it definitely did on the weekend, but I think we've just heard today that the London teams are going to go back into Tier 3 from this weekend, I think, which means no fans. Do you think the home fans has made a difference, or will it make a difference moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's an argument for it. I think it has given teams an advantage. I think you look at Fulham yesterday, you look at Palace the day before. It's good to see because I think a lot of the games that I've watched, you can now watch without having the EA Sports sound on. Probably the only match that you want to watch with that is the Arsenal, because it's like literally it's no different in terms of with the fans in. But I think it has made a huge difference. for team. And actually, it's interesting what the players have been saying, because a lot of the players have been talking about it giving them an extra edge or an extra boost, and the players playing against it have said it's been a little bit more challenging. So I think it's made an impact, and it's just good to see. I think people have been away from football too long. I think you almost get used to no fans being there.
Yeah.
So no, it's good. It's good. It's good to see.
And you had some. Well, I'm not sure if you've got stats exactly, but you did have an interesting point potentially about less goals over the Christmas.
Yeah, so we prepared. Yeah, I prepared this for last week's pod, and then Salah goes and has to play 90 minutes, and
everything went
all
up
we
in
speak
smoke.
about is we just spoke about Salah. And so I think I can't remember off the top of my head, but last year there were, so I think on average are about 2.7 goals per game, and it went down to about 2.3 over Christmas.
Okay.
And the XG followed suit as well. Forgive me if those stats are slightly out. I had it all prepared last week, but I do think that we may see, particularly with the quick turnaround, and also we get into a stage where I think teams are a sort of established pecking order. I do think we'll see, and when teams try and preserve energy, I do think we potentially will see less goals. So I think there could be an argument for stacking up on your premium defenders a little bit more. And I think if teams go 2-0 up, there may be the tendency to think, well, do you know what? We'll take off play. I remember there was a few times it happened last year. I think United, when they were playing Newcastle at home on Boxing Day, they went 4-1 up after about 60 minutes, and literally all the big hitters, Rashford and Martial, straight off. So I think you might see an element of that. And I think the teams will try and save energy. There was an article on The Athletic about, because of how games have been played with less turn, in closer proximity with each other, teams have been pressing less. So I think that's likely to happen.
I think Man United and Man City literally played that out, didn't they, on the weekend? To its kind of it was optimal thing, but yeah. Owen Johnson in the chat, where's it gone? Only Everton, Liverpool, Brighton, and Southampton will have fans from Wednesday. Thanks for that, Owen. So yeah, that could. That could be something to obviously think about. If you're targeting kind of A or B player, it may just make a bit of a difference. So
Liverpool, I think, is an interesting one with the fans, because I think the one thing I was overlooking, I was considering the Liverpool options, but Liverpool at home are such a different beast to Liverpool away.
Definitely.
So the interesting stat with you, since the start of last season, there's only 2 matches that Liverpool haven't scored at least 2 goals at home, which is incredible, isn't it? Because I was tempted to, I was thinking about, do you keep, the likes of Salah, kind of switching back to Bruno and do all of that? But you look at those stats, it was Wolves and Burnley were the only teams, and they conceded 1. So I can't remember the last time. You'd have to go back quite a bit. The last time where they didn't score at home. And it's quite interesting when you look at, they always go on about Mane's never lost at Anfield, Salah's never lost, and they literally just list the team, don't they? And I think when you watch them play at Fulham yesterday, and then you go back a few weeks and you look at the Leicester game, the Wolves game, earlier in the season when they blew Arsenal up, but I actually think they're going to put on a bit of a show versus Spurs. I think Spurs will go there to try and get something, and I think Liverpool will win convincingly.
Really? Wow, that is interesting. I think the opposite. I think that Spurs will do another kind of classic on the break job, and I think there'll be a couple of goals on either side personally.
Well, I think Spurs could score, but I think Liverpool will. I think the big difference when Chelsea and where Spurs have gone away to the other teams, Liverpool only know one gear at home, and it's to go fast. They will go for it. So they could leave opportunities to be countered. I think that's possible. And Son, if you looked at
Son against Trent,
Son getting in, Son getting in could be brilliant for that game.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think Liverpool will go for it, and I think they'll score. So
no, it's fair enough. Okay, so let's have a look then. So first we're going to look at goalkeepers, and we have a graphic on the Hub's points prediction stats filtered on goalkeepers for the period in question. So we're looking at from game week 13 to game week 17, which is 5 game weeks over the Christmas period and going into the new year. It puts Edison on top for that period, Alisson second, Lloris third, Meslier fourth, and Ryan fifth. For me, there's not much in it in the keepers. I think the only dilemma on keepers I would have, so I've got Martinez. I'm not sure. I'll probably just leave him. I don't see the point in changing it. The only thing which potentially you could move to, I think, which could be a good move for me in the long term, is Edison. I know he's expensive, but he's nailed on to play. He should get a clean sheet. I think they've had 5 on the bounce, and their fixtures are really good for a long time. Their expected goals against this season is 7 in 12 7 in 11 games. So it's far less than 1 a game. I would only do it, if I had the change to actually do it. Had the cash to do it. But I'll probably just stick with Martinez, in all honesty, because he's a really good goalie as well, and he gets some saves. But I haven't got much more else to kind of add there, Adam. How about you? From
do you know what? No, Martinez was absolutely brilliant the weekend. I mean, that save from the Donker. I know when you slow it down, it doesn't look as good, but in real time, what is an unbelievable save. And I think he's been a great signing for Villa. I think for the next 3, and in fact, I actually think long-term Martinez is the best option. I looked at Villa's, other than maybe 3 tricky games around the Christmas period. I think we've got quite good fixtures, and actually in the tricky games, you could get save points. Villa are actually quite good at defending when they're under the cosh and hitting teams. So hitting teams on the break. So I think Martinez is the best option. I think there are some other potentials. I think the other ones I would look at if you've got a little bit more money. Mendy at 5.2 million. I mean, he's got the highest save percentage in the league.
Good show.
So, I think he would be a good option. I think Lloris I quite like. I think he's quite good for bonus as well. So that'd be the ones that I'd look at. I mean, I don't know how Ryan's ranked number 5. I mean, do you know what his save percentage is this season without looking?
I know that he went through a period of not making a save in however many games, didn't he? It's basically every time a team shot, they scored, wasn't it?
It's 47%. So basically, if you have a shot on target, an average shot on target statistically has got more than a 1 in 2 chance of going in.
That's incredible.
It just puts me off him completely, even though they're not allowing loads of big chances. So
no, I agree. Like I say, not much there, and a very fair point from Michael Anderson. Is it not better to do a City defender and a cheap keeper over Edison and a 4-5 million defender? Yeah, I think you're right there, Michael. I would definitely err on getting a City defender first. I was probably talking about having Edison, maybe on top, but like I say, I probably won't unless I'm a watch with cash, but definitely not.
Yeah, just quickly, Mike Garcia's put in the chat about Pope as an option, and I think they've got some good fixtures, and I think if you've got the cash, he's quite good on bonus. But the only downside I think with Pope is that when you're looking at a goalkeeper, there's a few things you want to look at. So what's the price difference between him and the defence? That's always quite good, and there's quite a big gap between Pope and, say, Charlie Taylor, for example. I think he hits the other 2 criteria okay. So you'd look at save and bonus potential. So that's where Martinez is better than McCarthy, for example. Yeah. McCarthy's not been given, other than the odd game, he's not been given enough shots to save because Southampton's defence is pretty good. So therefore, it's very difficult to get bonus. But saves are usually a great source of BPS. So I think Martinez for me is the best option.
Cool. Okay, let's skip off keepers because they're not.
Yeah, it's a bit boring, isn't it?
So okay, we'll move on to defenders, and we have a graphic up from our Opta Stats tool from Fantasy Football Hub showing the expected points from all defenders from the last 6 games. So just running quickly down them, top of the shop: Ben Chilwell, 37.7 points, Zuma 37, Reece James 36. So 3 Chelsea defenders of the last 6 games, top for expected points. Ruben Diaz, who I have got my eye on definitely, comes in at 4th. Van Aanholt initially comes in 5th. George Baldock, now listen to this, Adam. George Baldock over the last 6 games has got expected points of 30.5, right? He scored 8 points. That's one of the biggest underperformance I think I've ever seen. It's like less than 1 in 3, which is incredible. Vestergaard obviously been playing really, really well. Tierney and Bellerin are actually expected points of 30 odd, and they've scored 16 and 24 respectively, and then Reguilon. But yeah, for me, George Baldock, not that I'd buy him because he's obviously quite expensive, but he stood out there. But so in terms of defenders, Adam, what are your thoughts on defenders over the Christmas period? Who are you eyeing up?
So for me, I would look at 2 or 3 teams. So I would look at Chelsea, City, Spurs as well, I think, would be the 3 that I would look at. And we'll go through a couple of cheaper options. But I think the 2 standouts for me at the moment would be Ruben Dias and Reece James. I think on wildcard, it's very likely that, subject to things changing between now and then, that I would do the Chilwell to James move. I think if he misses the odd game, fine, but he's been brilliant, and I don't think Chilwell's worth the extra. So I like Reece James. I think Zuma's a good option as well. I think Mendy's a good option as keeper. So I don't think you need to go to Chilwell. He might get the extra, the odd goal, but I think with Zuma's attacking threat and Reece James, how he played, his overall crossing and assist potential, and he's got a good strike in him as well. So they're the ones that stand out to me. I like Eric Dyer as well, because he's 5 million. He's in a team that, I thought Spurs were pretty poor defensively and just poor in general yesterday. But on the whole, they've improved significantly defensively. He nearly scored an absolute worldie of a free kick. That save,
a save!
It was. I think the 2 saves that Guaita made yesterday. He got man of the match in Sky, didn't he? And even though he messed up on the Kane goal, those 2 saves were something else. So for me, those would be the. If I was wild carding, I would have a back 3 of James, Diaz, and Dyer. I think they'd be the 3 that I would go for. I would. I'm trying to think of other if cheaper options to complement them. I think Burnley have got a next, good run of games in the short term. So someone maybe like Charlie Taylor. I like Balbuena. He's had 3 big chances in the last 6 games, which is top for all defenders. Bonner is a little bit more expensive, I think, or Kufal. So I think looking at West Ham, would be quite good. I think Southampton's fixtures aren't great, which would put me off the likes of Vestergaard and Walker-Peters. But they'd be the ones that I'd go for. I wouldn't overthink it. When you look at expected goals against, big chances conceded, it really points to City and Chelsea, and they just don't look like conceding. And I think the goals that they have conceded have just been, they didn't really look like conceding against Everton, other than giving away a lapse of concentration and giving away a stupid penalty. So that's where I'd go. What do you reckon?
Yeah, so I've got James and Chilwell. How James didn't get an attacking return on the weekend, he hit the post. His crossing, I think his crossing at the moment is either the best or very near the top in the whole league. I think Reece James looks absolutely fantastic as an option. I'm so pleased I got him in early, but I thought he was really unlucky not to get anything on the weekend. Diaz, I'm likely bringing in this week, and the fact that I've looked at this and Robertson isn't on there for me probably confirms my Robertson to Diaz move, which will free up some money to probably enable me to get Salah in time for the game week 15 match home to West Brom. You just mentioned the home game. I think I did mention last week, in all fairness, I'm not too worried about Salah away. Okay, he might score, which he did, but a lot of teams, a lot of FPL managers took a lot of -4s, -8s to get in Salah, and I think they were fortunate. I think everyone would agree they were fortunate there. And I saw people take out Vardy, take out Son, take out all these players, take out Bruno, take out KDB. Okay, they didn't hurt on the weekend. They will hurt this week because they've got the 2 best fixtures. So so Robertson to Diaz is probably my move. Creswell or Kufal, depending on budget. I think one of those 2 are really good options. Man United is another one. So Mike Garcia in the chat again said Shaw 4.8. The only thing with Shaw is that is he a guaranteed starter now over Tellez? I'm not sure, to be honest. He took some corners last week, as Mike has said, but I'm not sure that he's nailed. And you need nailed people in your team.
I think when you look at Man United, and they are okay. I mean, defensively they've done okay actually, and they stack up stats wise. But you look at what they cost compared to the Chelsea and the Man City defenders, and you lose interest straight away.
You're right. Yeah.
So not for me. I think there's better options available.
And the only other one, I've kind of looked at, and I don't particularly like him as a defender, but I do think Maguire looks very, very dangerous. United have got a decent run of fixtures up as well. He's going to score soon. He's going to score a few goals this season, I think. He nearly scored a couple on the weekends. I think, he'd be okay. And
what's his price, Maguire? 5 point.
I haven't got it in front of me. In honesty, I'm assuming he's 5.5. I'm assuming 5.
It'd be close. He's around 5.5. I don't know if he's gone down a bit. I just think, would you at that price? You'd probably look at both Reece James and
Diaz,
one of the City boys, Cancelo as well. We haven't mentioned.
No,
it's possibly more of a rotation risk. But what about John Stones, 4.8?
I think Diaz looks like now he's their number one centre back and defender at the club. I think when you've got Stones, Ake, Laporte, Fernandinho can play in there as well. Okay, he's played well. He's not going to play every game, is he? And Diaz will likely get a rest over Christmas. He had a rest last week in the Champions League. But Diaz is their number one. Stones may be good for an odd game, but you'll find him benched, and it'll be frustrating. But if you picked him, in the short term with the kind of mindset of you start him, if he doesn't play, you get if you've got like Southcheck on your bench, for example, it could be a good option there potentially. I think that's it for me on defenders. Just looking at the graphic, Arsenal are up there. Surprisingly, Arsenal do have a good long run of games as well, but they just have to improve, don't they? I think I've watched them a bit, and I do think the fullbacks Tierney and Bellerin have been very unfortunate that Lacazette and Aubameyang and stuff just haven't got the confidence to finish at the moment, because I've got Tierney in a couple of other games, and so I kind of watch him a bit more, and he puts in some fantastic crosses, and they can't finish him. So I think they have been a little bit unfortunate there. So and I've mentioned West Ham, so I have got Creswell, who I think has got a fantastic set piece now. I suppose the question here, you mentioned earlier, Adam, it's a really interesting point on whether when you look at a premium defence against the attackers at the moment. Maybe was that answer this after, but I'm looking at getting a premium defence or 4 defenders over 5 million anyway, and taking some money out of attack. Obviously, if you want Kane and Vardy, or Kane or Vardy even, it's very, very hard there. So I suppose let's have a little chat when we come to the strikers on kind of where we think we should be looking to spend our money. Obviously, because we've all got 3 of the premiums minimum in midfield, which take up a lot of budget. So kind of a balancing act there, isn't it? So okay, so onto midfielders, and we now have a graphic again showing the expected points from all midfielders from the last 6 games. So top of the shop, Kevin De Bruyne, 44 points. Bruno, 43. In third place, above Salah, Cavallero is 35 points. He's only scored 16, so he is massively underperforming, and that's the one which immediately jumped out to me. Wow, I think he's 5.3 million midfielder playing as a striker. So if anyone's looking for a Jota replacement, for me that looks a good place to start. Salah then 34.6, Mahrez 34. Obviously his hat-trick is baked in there. Lookman as well, Gross, Rashford, Grealish and Neto. So couple of really interesting options in there. Adam, where would you kick off from midfielders over the Christmas period?
Well, I think I won't speak about the premiums for too long, but I think for me, De Bruyne and Fernandes look brilliant.
Yeah, agree.
Great options. I think it's hard to watch either City or United and not own them. Definitely, and I mean, I think you could. Yeah, I've got Salah as well, but I don't think Salah is as involved and influential as those two, because they're just doing the fact that they're obviously creating so many chances. Every time they get on the board, something looks like it's going to happen. I think for me, Son's an interesting one because he's nowhere near in the stats, is he? If you look at, you have to scroll down to about page 10 to find Son. But the one thing that Son has is he's just got that pedigree that if he gets in behind, you fancy him to score. He's got that 20 goals a season in him, which I think some of the others haven't. So Caballero, you've talked about, mentioned he's quite high up. I wouldn't go for him because although he's on penalties, which I think is good, when he got into positions yesterday, you never thought he was going to score. He never looked like scoring when he got in behind on those couple of occasions. I think if you're looking at Fulham, Lookman's the one to go for me. He's got more quality. He looks a really decent player. He's obviously played at Leipzig as well, so he's got more caliber. Whereas, Caballero's a bit part player at Wolves, wasn't he? Really, he's a Wolves reject. A bit harsh, but he's not got other than penalties. I don't see the goals coming. So I think for Fulham, I think Lookman's a really good option. He's cheaper as well, isn't he? He's 5 million. You could argue for a Lookman, and I know Heisenberg's big on this, the Lookman Souček rotation. I think that's quite a good option. It gives you a bit of depth in your squad as well. I think, who else would I say on midfielders? I think it's tough. I think we talked about West Ham. They've got an array of options in almost every position. But I think if you're looking at West Ham, you've got Souček, Bowen and Benrahma. And I think stats-wise, Bowen is really involved all the time. He's got the set pieces and corners, and West Ham have scored as many goals as, more goals than anybody else off set pieces. So I think looking at Bowen is a decent option, although he does tend to come off around the 75, 80 minute mark. Other options, I think Neto looks okay, but fixtures aren't brilliant. No. So for me in midfield, I would keep it really simple. I think you go for the premiums in there, and then maybe have one budget and one enabler. I haven't mentioned Grealish. I think for me, I've got a choice of keeping Grealish or Son this week, and I'm going to go with Son, and I'll talk through why later. But I think Grealish is a great player, but if you're looking at it in terms of end product and goals and assists over it, if you look at the history of the players, this is the first season where Grealish is looking like he might get to double figures for both, whereas Son is far more ruthless. And I think Grealish is a little bit more hit and miss. He's a great player, but he's a bit more hit and miss in front of goal. So when he cuts in, he gets a lot of shots blocked. And I think that's my biggest criticism of Grealish, is that when he gets in and around the edge of the box, he doesn't. His shooting isn't as good as someone like Maddison's. You saw what Maddison could do last night. That's a thing that he lacks, and I think it impacts him from an FPL perspective. So I think he's a great player. He has the potential to score big because of who he's playing. But I think someone like Son is more consistent in terms of his finishing.
I think as well with Son, when it's going, stripping it all the way back to basics here as well, which I like to do, when I've got a 50-50. Son plays for a better team with better players around him who are going to score more goals over the season. So I do think when you have that 50-50, it is, like, I know Villa put 7 past Liverpool, right? So I know this sounds like a bit of a statement, but Spurs will generally score more goals than Aston Villa, and therefore Son is more likely to get more points. And Son, everyone is saying in the chat actually, Nuclear, Atons, Srinjoy, Paresh, and a few others are saying Son is going absolutely nowhere. And I've said this all season. For me, Son is the new Salah. I really think he's that good in terms of player and FPL outputs. Do you know he's had, I think I saw a stat earlier, he's had 9 touches in the box in the last 5 games. but he just keeps scoring points every single week because he's so elite.
But it's been a consistent thing from it. Isn't actually, and it's but go back to Pochettino days, and I think what he sometimes lacked is playing consistently.
Yeah.
And maybe had the odd injury or suspension which has taken him out of the team, but he's the main man with alongside Kane at Spurs now. And I think the playing 90 minutes every week is really helping him. And the understanding him and Kane have is exceptional. It really is. And I think if you look at Liverpool, what will almost happen is when Kane picks the ball up, Liverpool will most likely play a fairly high and aggressive line. It's going to be that ball into Son, isn't it? So yeah, that'll be interesting. So if I was wild carding now, if I was looking for a midfield over the next 4 or 5, I think I would go big in midfield and cheaper up front. I think the two definites would be Bruno and KDB. I think I would stick with Son. I just think for the reasons we've just discussed, and I think anybody that's bought him at 9 million. I mean, my personal view is because I've got a wild card not too far away. If I sell him now and want him back, and throw in a little bit of money down the drain. So I don't think that would be the right decision. And then I think you've then got a choice between Salah and Kane. That's the way that I see it in terms of team structure. And I think you could make a case for either. I'm not, I think I prefer Salah for the captaincy options, against potentially West Brom. But, you can't really argue with Kane at the moment, the way that he's playing. And then I think if you're going to go 5 in midfield, you could either go midfield heavy and put Grealish in. But I'd probably be tempted to go with Souček and then balance up the team. And then you can go maybe switch between a 4-4-2 and a 3-5-2. That's probably what I would look to do at the moment in terms of where I see the value at and the option. I mean, what do you think? Are there any players that I've missed or that have really caught your eye?
So only a couple you haven't mentioned. I do think both Rafinha and Click actually at Leeds are pretty good options, are pretty good prices, around 5.5 million. They both look really attacking. Leeds fixtures, so they've got Newcastle next. They've then got United away. They then got Burnley, West Brom. They then got Spurs. They then got Southampton, Brighton, Newcastle, Leicester, Everton, and Palace. They've got a really nice long run of fixtures. If you have Bamford, I don't think you need them both. If you haven't got Bamford, I think having Rafinha, or more importantly, Click, because he's on penalties and he's very involved in the attacks. I think is a fairly good shout. I think I said Christian Gross earlier. I meant Pascal Gross, not the old Spurs manager. Pascal Gross for Brighton.
To be fair, he'll probably do as well as your Foden pick, won't he? So
yeah, well, yeah, thanks for that. Gross, I mean, he came in, he started off really well at Brighton, and then he just inexplicably kind of lost his place. So I don't think he's nailed. He's playing at the moment. He's on penalties at the moment as well. But Brighton, as we've already said, are just not looking.
I just wouldn't touch Brighton at all.
No,
I think they're the most. They've got so much promise in terms of potential FPL options, but they concede. They're conceding for fun. Almost like every chance they concede goes in. That's how bad they are. And yeah, I think, and plus as well, Potter, he's going to rotate.
He will.
There'll be Potter roulette going left, right, and centre over Christmas. So
I do think Rashford looks a lot more attractive than he did at the start of the season. So at the start of the season, he was playing quite wide on the left. Martial was the focal point. I think they've changed now. They changed the formation, and Rashford looks really attacking. So I wouldn't go for Rashford ahead of Bruno, but potentially, when United do fall into a really nice run of fixtures, a double up there, is not out of the question. Rashford always he cuts in from the left and that right foot, and he always looks like he's going to score, always. So and he's got through on a lot of 1-on-1s as well, which he's scored a few, missed a few.
If you got Son as well, it's an easy move, isn't it? If he goes out of form,
does exactly, roughly the same price. And the only other one, and this one is really interesting. It was pointed out to me actually by someone on Twitter, FPL Greenhorn, and it's a 4.4 million currently playing player in a very, very attacking team.
Oh, I know what you're going to say. So he started
3 of the last 4, He nearly scored goal of the season yesterday.
World-class goal yesterday. But
Curtis Jones, at the moment, is in that Liverpool team, and he's in there because Fabinho has obviously moved to play at centre half, which he's going to be there probably until the new year at least. So if you are looking to stack up on 3, 4, potentially even 5 premiums, I know that'll be really kind of hard to do. But you just want someone just to sit on your bench who may get you a point or two each week, or may actually get you a bit more, right? If Curtis Jones would have scored that yesterday, right, it was saved. It would have been, it would have won in the game. It would have been hailed as goal of the season, and he would have been on the front page of all the newspapers, and his price would probably have gone up already, right? That's the fickleness of football fans and FPL managers, right? Just because it was saved, that. All that hasn't happened. So if you're looking for a fifth midfielder at the moment, he could be a decent one. Just
all those ifs and buts. If my auntie had bollocks and all that, you can do that any week.
You can. You can. But if he'd have done that, he would have gone down in folklore. So that's it for midfielders. Moving on to forwards then. So again, we have the same graphic showing the expected points for the last 6 games. Vardy, top of the shop, 41.8. Bamford, second on 36.1. Werner, 34.7. Calvert-Lewin, 34.5. Kane, only 29.6. He's actually scored 42 points over, 30% over his expected points. You would expect from someone who takes one shot in every game and scores. Watkins, 28.5. Che Adams, quite high up, 27.6. Chris Wood, quite high up. Since Burnley haven't been scoring. He hasn't been scoring. So his was 27.6. Halle, as we mentioned earlier, 26.5. And Danny Welbeck, 26. I suppose the ones which got me there, Kane overperforming, scored 42 against expected points at 29. Vardy slightly overperforming, 46, but he was top for expected points on 41. Bamford underperforming. He's only got 26 points where he should have scored 36. All the others are kind of roughly where they should be until you get down to Wood and Halle, which I know that actually both Burnley and West Ham have got some nice fixtures coming up, but you're not going to put in Wood, I don't think. Burnley have a couple of really nice fixtures. So they've got Sheffield United and Fulham back-to-back at home in game week 16 and 17. But when you've got the likes of Calvert-Lewin, Bamford, Che Adams, maybe Ollie Watkins, maybe not, because their fixtures turn. Antonio should be back soon. Maybe, he's not to go there. But, yeah, at the moment in my team, so I've got Watkins and Bamford. I brought in Ings. Now, I'm pretty annoyed I brought in Ings because I wouldn't have brought Ings in if I'd have known that Jota would have been out for a couple of months. I would have, shifted my team around and got in Salah because that's the only reason which I didn't get him. I thought Jota could basically steal a few of his points. But I'm thinking now actually of potentially moving down Ings in a couple of weeks to enable Salah in for this home game against West Brom, and there's only a couple of players like 6 million or under. Welbeck's there. Dick Ordo-Reid for Fulham as well.
Yeah, I like Dick Ordo-Reid. I think he that's the difference. So he looked at Caballero when he was in yesterday. Yeah. Never looked like scoring. Reid had that one chance, and what a finish that was! Wasn't it? It was absolutely brilliant. And he's got a good pedigree as well. Was it Bristol City he was at before? And he was, he did really well there. So I like him as an option. I think he's got 4 goals and an assist this season. Yes. He does get pushed back defensively on the right quite a bit, but he gets into. I think that actually, in a way, helps him get into some better positions when they attack. So, did he win the penalty as well versus Leicester? I think he did, didn't he?
I'm not sure.
Pretty sure he did. So you can see he does get, even though he can be playing pretty much right back at times, he does really, really get forward. So I think of the sub 6 million. Well, I don't know what Che Adams is now. He might fall into that, but it's definitely 6. Sub 5.5. I think he's the best option.
Yeah, so, if I did that, I wouldn't be buying him to start him every week. He would be on the bench, or, I could play him if they do have a really nice fixture. But it's either getting like him or Brewster. And I was also the point in getting Brewster. doesn't play, and when he does, he gets hauled off early, doesn't score many points. I know it's like 0.8 million more, but my whole plan of the Christmas period is to have a fully playing bench, or at least 2 of my 3 playing. So this is the reason. And if I get him in for Ings, which I didn't, I don't really want to do. I've got to get Salah in home to West Brom, as long as Salah is fit for that game. I won't be getting him in earlier. They've got Spurs at home and Palace away. So I don't, again, he may score a goal, but I'm not buying a 12 million player just to score a goal. And in terms of, I suppose in terms of premiums, only really Vardy and Kane are performing at premium price. Aguero from game week 18. I was looking at the fixtures. Man City's fixture from game week 18. They're home to Brighton, home to Palace, away to West Brom, home to Sheffield United. That is a hell of a run of games. He could be dynamite in that period. Other kind of observations. Calvert-Lewin just keeps returning 5 or 6 points nearly every game. I took him out 4 rings. I don't. I know this is wrong, and maybe it's because I bought him. So I bought him at 7.8. I want more, and Everton's fixtures not very nice either. So I want more from a player of that price, which is why I kind of let him go. I do think Watkins now is not on penalties, which diminishes his appeal and also heightens Grealish. So I'm going to leave Watkins in for the next 3. They've got 3.
I don't know. Let's wait and see what happens with that. Grealish doesn't like taking penalties. I think that's pretty clear. He's had enough chances to force himself forward. I don't think he has the right profile, because I think a couple of people mentioned this on Twitter, and I think they're right. You almost need to, when you see those players who are really gutted when they can't take the penalty, he's giving it away for fun.
Strange, isn't it?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I was even as a Grealish owner, I was really pleased he didn't take it, because our guards, you could see that they had so much confidence in him taking it, and he was the one that practices the most. So I think it was definitely the right decision. But Watkins looked gutted when he wasn't taking it. Right. So I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised if he talks Jack round.
Okay. Well, he's good. He's good for the next.
He'll probably miss it though. So
well, this is it.
So I don't know if it's a good thing, but
I've got my eye on Antonio. Let's just hope he doesn't get rushed back this time. Fantastic striker on penalties, team playing really well, full of confidence, main man up front. If he comes back in, he is going to be gold if he can stay fit. And the other one, mentioned earlier, actually, in terms of Wood, they've got a nice little run from game week 14 to 17. Burnley have good expected points. He's on penalties for Burnley as well. It's just another option, right? But I think I'm moving my all my money, or the majority of my money, into midfield. It's mostly there already anyway. I'm going to go quite premium-ish at the back, and then have kind of light up front, because I think you can. I think players like Bamford, Watkins, Che Adams, they're getting returns nearly every week, which is all you kind of want from a 6 million player.
Agreed.
Adam, what are your thoughts on strikers?
I think the ideal structure to have, and I think for me, and this is what I anticipate having post wildcard, is 1 premium striker and 2 mid-price strikers, or 2 cheaper ones. You like your Bamford and Calvert-Lewin, or your Bamford and Adams, etc. And I think there is a spot for the likes of, I think having Kane. I think a lot of want Kane back come game week 16.
Yeah.
So I think that's the ideal to get to. I think for the next few weeks, like I said, I think it's a decision for me anyway, and it might be for others, between Kane and Salah. That's how I see it. And I think Salah just has probably you'd be more likely to want to captain him. So that's why I think you can go without a premium striker over the next few weeks. I've got a bit of a dilemma, because I currently have Vardy, but in order to bring Fernandes in, I probably need to ditch him this week. So I'm looking at, I think I can go up to 6.5 million. So I currently have Bamford and I currently have Calvert-Lewin, and happy with both of them. Because I'll be losing Grealish as part of this deal, to have the Fab 4 in midfield, I'm probably going to go Watkins. I think Villa have got good fixtures, and I don't think he's quite hit his potential yet. I think there's more to come from him. And I think if you look back at that West Ham game, to forget the penalty, he was really unlucky not to score an open play. Yeah, and I think so. I think for his price, I'm happy to take the risk and take the gamble that he'll match Grealish. Which I think he's capable of doing. Outside of that, I'm not really excited by a lot of the striking options. I think for me, if I was wild carding now, it doesn't make sense for me to take a striking spot away, because it'll involve a -4 to do it, to shift around the funds how I want to do it. And I don't think for 3 game weeks it's worth the -4. I don't think I would get it back, or I think I'd just end up wasting a transfer. But if I was in a position now, what I would probably do is have 2. I'd probably be looking to play 2 strikers each week, I think, and play more midfield and trust my defence more. So, maybe go 4-4-2 would be what I would look at, or 3-5-2. I just think there are better options in defence and midfield at the moment.
Cool.
That's what I think. I think because I'm not overly excited about bringing in Watkins, but I think he's probably the best of a bad bunch that I don't own.
No, that's fair. We've got your team now up on screen, Adam. So I suppose while we're on it, could you read out your team for our podcast listeners and talk through your planned moves?
So I've got McCarthy in goal. Going to keep him for the next 3 weeks. Pointless changing him. I've got at the back. I've got a decision. So I've got Target, Chilwell, and then I've got a decision between Ayling and Justin, which I'll come on to in a minute. Salah, De Bruyne, Son, and Grealish in midfield, and then Vardy, Calvert-Lewin, and Bamford up front. So I've got 2 free transfers. I think firstly, just going through the defence, I've got to decide between starting Justin or Ayling. For me, I got it wrong last week, but I think I'm going to trust Ayling because they're playing Newcastle. And Newcastle, they had that. Bruce was saying how exhausted the players were at the end of the game. And so I think the main threat for Newcastle will come from set pieces. I'm just going to put fingers crossed, hope Leeds can actually defend. But I think if you're knackered, one of the teams you don't want to play, probably Leeds and Southampton are probably two of the ones that stand out for that sort of play. So I'm going to gamble. I think Ayling, even at centre back, he had a chance. He nearly created one for Rodrigo. So I think I'm going to go with that. I think Johnny Evans being out is a big blow for Justin, in my opinion. So I think I thought Justin was excellent the other day, but I think I'm going to go with starting Ayling. I've then got in midfield. So I've got 2 free transfers. My original plan was this. I was going to take out Vardy and Grealish for Watkins and Bruno. I can be talked out of this because there's quite a few options, and I've played around it all day. But what I'm very keen to do is progress my team forward each week. And I looked at a hokey cokey with Salah and Bruno, but then I might end up reversing it in a couple of weeks. I actually think what I said about Liverpool, I think Liverpool could score 2 or 3 against Spurs. So, whereas I actually think if Everton set up how they do, or how they did against Chelsea, I think it'll be difficult for Leicester. You saw how they struggled to break down Fulham. Not everyone's going to be as obliging as Brighton and play as open as they do. So I actually think, but then if Rodriguez comes in, that could disrupt that. I think that makes them defensively weaker. So I think at the moment I'm going to stick with that. I'm open to suggestions though. So if you've got anything else that you think, it allows, by the way, in Gameweek 14, subject to no price rises, I can then do Justin to Ruben Diaz.
Nice.
So it strengthens my defence. So that's one of the other reasons I'm looking. Just give me just enough so I can put some money back. What do you reckon?
I'm not sure on who to bring. We're all torn at the moment of which premiums, right? So it's very easy to say, take out Vardy, put in Bruno, right? I suppose my only advice would be don't do the hokey cokey, because You're just using your transfers every week, and you're not moving your team forward. Your whole team forward. You're just jumping from one capture option onto the rest. And as you say, taking out you. For me, you've got Salah in now. You didn't bring in Salah for one game, right? He's got Spurs again. He's at home. They're on penalties, top of the table clash.
Yeah, exactly.
They've got Palace, who Kane could easily have scored a couple of goals yesterday. Guaita made some incredible saves.
He did.
Salah should get a bit of joy there as well. Even it's just a goal, right? It's all it needs for a midfield to get a haul is a goal. Then after that, they're home to West Brom. So I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't do the hokey cokey because it was going to work. Out of your options, I would take Vardy out. He may score this week, right? But after this week, you're not going to want him. Whereas you are going to want Salah back. And I think this is my thing. I would do your Vardy move. Get in Bruno. You're setting your team up for the coming weeks and not hopping from one week to the next.
So the two decisions in that case, do I lose Grealish or Son? Who would you, if you were in my shoes, who would you lose?
I would personally say Grealish if you're getting Watkins because you're getting Villa attacker.
I think that fits nicely because if I keep Grealish, I could bring Ings in, but then the problem is I have pretty much no money to do anything with my defence.
I wouldn't do Ings because Southampton, so their next two now, they're away to Arsenal.
And then home to City, aren't they?
So whereas Watkins have got a really nice run, home to Burnley, away to West Brom, home to Palace.
Do you know, I spent a lot of today looking at options, and I think I always come back to this one, and I think it was the one I planned. And there are things that could go wrong with it. I mean, I could look at other options to Watkins, but I think the fact I'm taking out Grealish, and do you know what? I quite like him as a player. So I think that makes it a little bit more fun for me not to have any Villa attack as well. It would take an element of fun.
It's either that, right? Or because Vardy and Grealish could both return this week. If you're not going to captain Bruno, just use a transfer somewhere in your team, maybe upgrade someone to Diaz, and just don't get Bruno.
I've only got 0.1 in the bank, so I can't. That's the thing. I can't do that.
But
defensive.
If you're not going to captain Bruno, Bruno, even if he's, if he scores his penalty, even if he hauls 12 or 14 points, Vardy and Grealish will probably get something, maybe one return each. If you're going to captain him, I think it's different because you're doing it for a specific reason. But you may want to leave them in just for this week because how gutted will you be if you do those moves? Vardy and Grealish, you've both got nice home games against weak defences. They both return, and Bruno, Bruno just doesn't get his return.
I think the problem is because I did consider that, but one of my regrets is sometimes I said it earlier with a few pods back when I had Rashford and I didn't move him to Bruno for that extra -4. Yeah. You watch Bruno. He's just he's a player that I definitely do want. And the other thing is because I've only got 0.1 in, I think if I could make a Ruben Diaz move or do something to strengthen my defence, which would move my team forward, I'd do it. But because I literally have no money, and I'd be making a move for the sake of it. So I'm prepared for it to go wrong. I'm just hoping Everton put on a decent defensive show, which I think they're capable of if they set up how they did against Chelsea. And I think it would be harder for Vardy to play against, particularly if it's 4 actual centre-backs, that are very limited going forward. So I think that's what I'm decided on. I think the other reason for keeping Son is I think he's very, very lethal on the counter-attack. I think he's more lethal and more punishing than Grealish. And plus I bought him at 9 million, so I'm probably going to want to keep him. So I won't be kicking myself as much if it doesn't work out because at least I'm benefiting from. And
especially because you haven't got Kane either, right? This is the thing with having the Spurs.
Yeah, that's
if
true.
You haven't got either
exactly.
of them, what a killer,
Exactly. Because I think against Leicester and Wolves, I think Spurs could do okay. So I think that's me sorted. You've got me convinced. You haven't talked me out of.
I just wouldn't take out Salah because then you're just moving captain to captain, and the rest of your team is like slowly decaying, so to speak, around the edges, isn't they? Whereas if you're constantly moving it forward,
Yeah, exactly.
And what about for game week 14 then? For next week? Any thoughts?
Yeah, if I can do it, and it'll be exact money, and I've got, this is all subject to price
You have
rises.
to move early then.
Yeah, well, I can do bring Ruben Diaz in, but if not Ruben Diaz, there are other people. I could bring in Eric Dyer. I could bring in, because it's only for 2 game weeks as well. So, Diaz could end up getting rotated. So I've got Dyer as a cheaper option. I've got, who else? I've Reece James as well. Might go double Chelsea for a few game weeks. I think if they've got West Ham and Arsenal, I don't think, is West Ham at home and Arsenal away, is that right?
Who's that? Sorry, I missed that.
For Chelsea, I think the game week 14 and 15.
Chelsea,
West Ham
at home, Arsenal away, then Villa at home.
Yeah, exactly. So it's guaranteed a clean sheet at Arsenal, and so yeah. And that's exactly. So I think that's my plans at the moment, and we'll obviously talk about captaincy in a minute because I know a few people are asking in the chat.
We will, yeah. Just in the chat. So Ped at home, will Aguero or Jesus start next game? If I was to bet, I'd bet Jesus, but also because Pep likes to rotate, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ferran Torres or Sterling.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it'll be Aguero. I can't see how Aguero can play in no football to start of the game, personally. Karen Bora says Bruno will start. He will indeed. Let's just have a look. Paris says City have amazing fixtures. We do know that De Bruyne is being rested. I'm not sure about that, Willie. I haven't seen anything there to say that he can be rested. Ryan Baker asks you, Adam, can you do Vardy to Brewster and Bissouma to Fernandes? What a shout that is if you've got the cash to do that.
Yeah, it's a
but
great
then you're
shout.
Stuck with that. You've got no bench, have you?
No, it's a really good shout, and it's one I wish I could do, but I can't. So I can, if I do Vardy to Brewster, I think I've only got 10 and a half. I can't stretch, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm just that. So, but I mean, how it works out by that move, though, it basically means that because I would like that 3-5-2 with Grealish instead of Watkins. But that's the only difference on. But what it does do is it gives me that bit of extra money to improve my defence. So you can't have everyone. That's the thing, can you? So it's win-win for me. Grealish scores. I'm not going to moan too much. And if he doesn't, well, at least it's not hurt my FPL rank. So
that's right. Okay, and moving on to my team. So I've got Martinez in goals. At the moment in my team, I've got a back four of Robertson, Chilwell, Reece James and Creswell. Got a midfield of De Bruyne, Son and Fernandes. And 3 up front of Bamford, Watkins and Ings, with Soucek first sub and Jota and Mitchell then 14th and 15th. So my thoughts are that I want to have Salah in for West Brom, right? I mean, I'm not really a manager who likes to just focus all energies on one player for one game. But that home to West Brom looks like it might be an absolute bloodbath. It's got like hat trick written all over it, right? And I don't want to be 40 points off by trying to be too smart. If Jota was fit, like I say, I would go without Salah. Jota's not fit. Salah is, he's in for me. So I need to work out how to get there. So I have got 3 game weeks worth. My plan. So what I can do Robertson down to Diaz to free up some money, and obviously get in Diaz, who I think is going to be fantastic over this run and very attacking. He's been very unlucky not to score any.
Will you do that this game week then?
I probably will, but I'll touch on that now. So I need to do that. I then need to do Ings out, which is a real shame because I brought him in thinking, if I had Jota as Liverpool cover almost, if you know what I mean, then I would be happy, but I can't. So I need to put Ings down to either Welbeck, which I'm not doing, or De Cordova-Reid, which I kind of mentioned earlier, which will mean that I have got 3 playing strikers, but that then enables me to do the direct upgrade then from Jota up to Salah. So I can do that. It's going to cost me a -4. I think I can do it. But what I can do this week, so I can do Robertson to Diaz this week. But Robert, I love Robertson, right? I really, really do. But I'm doing this for the greater good. I can do Robertson to Diaz this week. Diaz has got really good chance of a clean sheet. What I can do then potentially in game week 14 is put Ings down to Cordova-Reid, and then I can do the Salah. I don't like planning transfers 2 or 3 weeks in advance, so I could just do it for the hit, on either this week or next week or wherever else. I've got a decision to kind of make there. But I will then have a midfield of De Bruyne, Son, Fernandes, Salah, and Soucek, which I'm really, really happy with. I'll have defence of Diaz, Chilwell, James, and Creswell. So it's that kind of premium defence we were talking about. I will have strikers of Bamford, Watkins, and Cordova-Reid. I could probably move Watkins on after a couple of weeks, but my plan would probably be then to probably lose either Salah, De Bruyne, or Fernandes, or even Son. Not sure, I mean, who knows? There could be some kind of injury. There could be a team may go off the, off form or whatever it is. But I too want Kane in then for game week 16. But I will very, very likely have to lose a big midfielder if I want that. But I have got Son, and I've said all along, I don't think you need Son and Kane personally. I think having Salah, De Bruyne, Bruno, and Son or Kane, and a nice squad around you, a very nice team all around, especially double Chelsea attacking full-back defence, which basically play as attackers kind of anyway. Soucek on the bench, as well. So I think I'm fairly happy with that, in all honesty. So that's my kind of plan for the next 2 or 3 game weeks there. What do you think?
I think Jota to Foden, Captain Foden. That's what I would do.
Do you know what? It's written in the stars, isn't it?
He's going to haul this week. He's going to haul.
If Foden scores 10 points this week, I'm going to give away a Fancy Football Hub mug to someone. I'm going to give it to FPL Geordie, because he's so supportive, and active in the chat and stuff. So there we go, FPL Geordie.
That's good. I like that.
If Foden scores 10 points in game week 13, we will get you
10 plus points, yeah.
10 or more.
Yeah.
Then I'll give you a mug. So
I like that.
I'll be sick. I'll be absolutely sick having held him for so long.
I like the fact that you're planning ahead. I think that's really good, and I know you're a manager that does that, and you're not just thinking about the one game week. So I quite like your moves. I think how you set up at the moment defensively. I think you've got the best goalkeeper. You set up defensively quite strong. I think it's the right move to get rid of Robertson. Great player, but it's just Liverpool aren't keeping the clean sheets, and there's just better there's people that can match him for less. So I think that makes sense. So yeah, I like your moves, and I think because you haven't got a wild card, I think you're setting yourself up really well, because you're going to have 14 players, that play. So yeah, I can't argue with that. I bet you're kicking yourself. You got Ings this week, though, aren't you?
I'm just gutted. If I'd have known that Jota, like I say, was out, I would have got Salah in. But there was this knock thing, right? So I was like, oh, if he's got a knock, it's fine. He could still even play, or if not. And
do you know what it was Saturday morning it broke, wasn't it? About how it was Saturday morning.
So good, because I put so much thought into it as well, and I was so 50-50 all week on whether to do it or not. And if I would have known that, I would have done it definitely. So but we'll move on. It could cost me a -4 or not, but I think my team is very solid. Actually, there was a really good question in the chat earlier. I do apologize. I read it, but I didn't acknowledge it at the time as we were talking. But for those who haven't got a wild card, the question was, would you be looking already towards potentially the double game weeks? And my thought is, I am here. So this is one of the reasons why I bought in Creswell early. I think their good run started in game week 8, so I brought him in like game week 7. One of the reasons I brought in Soucek is because I will have Creswell and Soucek for this game week 18 or 19. I'm not making moves just for that. It just so happens they are, they are good options anyway, but not having the wild card, I am starting to think slightly to that. The only fixture we know, as I say, is West Ham and West Brom. Not interested in anyone in West Brom at all. So my current thought is, as well, I could even potentially do Watkins to Antonio in game week 16, 17 or 18, when Villa's fixtures turn, which gives me that really nice rounded team and 3 West Ham players going into a double game week. Likely play free hit in 18, hold the team for 19, but we'll see. But I suppose my answer is I wouldn't be putting all my eggs in one basket now. Just having the back of your mind if you've got a 50-50, just have a think about a few weeks down the line, I would say. So looking ahead now to game week 13 captaincy, few options again. Like, I tell you what's interesting, I put up the pictures for the captaincy every week, and I barely have to change them every week because we're getting the same kind of 4 or 5 real captaincy options. This week it's De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, Jamie Vardy and Salah. We put a vote out earlier on the Hub Twitter, and Kevin De Bruyne 56.8% of the vote, Bruno Fernandes 35.7%, Vardy home to Everton at just 5%, and Salah only 3.5% of the vote. To me, it's pretty cut and dry this week. Adam, what are your thoughts on the captaincy?
Well, I think, I wouldn't say it's cut and dry, because I think there were 2 absolutely great options that in any other game week I would be happy captaining. So I think Bruno away to Sheffield United, he's never blanked away, which is an incredible stat in itself. He's playing the worst team in the league, so it's hard to argue past that. Sheffield United, you think with Wilder's job, whether it's on the line or not, but they're going to have to do something to try and turn it round. And have they got that gritty, resilient performance? You don't know, do you? But so I think Bruno's an absolutely brilliant option. United probably will get a dodgy penalty. That seems to be happening most game weeks. So I think Bruno's a brilliant option. I've got mine on De Bruyne at the moment, purely because the last 2 matches he's played at home, he's just been unplayable, and the amount of chances. What the big difference actually that I think with the big advantage De Bruyne's added to his game this year, because he's playing in that number 10 consistently, and I think Pep will continue to play him there because he hasn't got David Silva to do the 2-3-8s. I just think he's getting his goal threat is improved significantly. I mean, the last 2 home matches, I think he's hit the post and bar in, but both matches. So, and he was unlucky even in the game against United. He was unlucky not to score. I think he had that shot blocked, which was a really good chance. So, he played a great ball to Mahrez. That no look pass to Mahrez was world class. So, for me, I just think the form that De Bruyne has shown, he's just been unplayable, and he's just a joy to watch. The risk with him, and I suppose it's a risk with Bruno to an extent because they play Leeds a couple of days later, is the rotation. But I think he'll start. I think they need the points. They can't afford to slip up, and I think he'd surely start him and take him off rather than not start him.
So he's been rested for the last 2 Champions League games, I think, as well. So he's just been playing on the weekend. He can easily play a Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, or whatever it is, because then they've got another week off before the next one as well. I personally don't think he's a rotation risk this week, because he hasn't actually played a lot of games recently. He's only been playing in the league. He won't be tired from the weekend because it was all played at walking pace. I think mine is on De Bruyne. I have got a graphic up for our YouTube watchers, which actually shows that Bruno is, so we've got De Bruyne's home form for the season and home stats against Bruno's away form. Bruno looks by far the better option at the moment, based on the stats, based in nearly every stat, points, goals. They've got the same amount of assists, but shots on target, shots, through balls, expected points, big chances, they all fall on Bruno's side. The only ones which fall on De Bruyne's side are big chances created, and
is that for the season?
It's for the season, yeah. So it's home versus away.
I think the last 4 game weeks, it's got a lot closer.
It probably has. Yeah,
I think I looked earlier at expected points, and I think De Bruyne is just ahead. But there isn't much in it, and I just think they're both great options. The frustrating thing is that the ideal scenario would be that you get De Bruyne at home and then Fernandes away in alternating weeks. But because of obviously they're both Manchester clubs, that's never going to happen, that they rotate the home and away every game. So that would solve the captaincy dilemma, I think. But yeah, I think it's just edging towards KDB for me. And I wouldn't overthink it. I would just go for one of those two. I think most people will have at least one of them. If you haven't got one of them, captain, the other, it's pretty straightforward. I don't think there's anybody else that stands out for me this week. I think anybody else, you'd be overthinking it. Maybe Vardy, but I'm not too optimistic. He'll get a high score.
So on our prediction tool for Game Week 13, so this is available on Fantasy Football Hub under predictions. De Bruyne comes out top. Salah actually comes out second. Sterling comes out third, ahead of Jesus and Bruno. So Sterling's maybe the only other one we haven't mentioned. Obviously he's been a bit in and out of the team. He hasn't hit anywhere near the heights. You can't imagine that West Brom are going to come out and play expansive football. If Sterling starts, he could get a couple, but I just think you'd agree Bruno and KDB are just better all-round options, both on penalties as well, which is obviously massive, this year. But yeah, Sterling, outside shout for anyone who's got Sterling, could be, he could. Would you be surprised if Sterling grabbed a hat trick? He started to grab a hat trick under West Brom. I wouldn't, but we will see. So we're just going to have a very quick look ahead to Game Week 14 because we're not going to be able to record again prior to the deadline. So the key games, so Palace are home to Liverpool, Southampton are home to Man City, Everton have got Arsenal, Newcastle home to Fulham, Brighton got Sheffield United, Spurs home to Leicester, United home to Leeds, West Brom against Villa, Burnley against Wolves, and Chelsea West Ham. The 4 we've picked out here, unsurprisingly. So Harry Kane, Spurs home to Leicester, Kevin De Bruyne, Man City away to Southampton, Bruno Fernandes, Man United home to Leeds, who love to concede off a set piece, and Salah away to Palace. So what are your thoughts there, your kind of early thoughts there?
Probably Fernandes, I think. That's one of the reasons I was looking to bring him in. I think the Leeds, the Leeds game, I think is a really, really strong captaincy option, like you mentioned, set pieces. So that's what I'm thinking at the moment. Salah against Palace possibly, but I think I'd still lean towards Bruno.
Just that away game, like with Salah away, I know that the actual stats itself doesn't really point to there's much difference between home and away, but there is a difference in even if it's just on the eye test, and you could see it yesterday. Salah had one snapshot, and he had the penalty.
I don't think it's Salah though. I think it's Liverpool.
Exactly.
Liverpool, yeah, Liverpool. I think Liverpool at home.
Yeah.
Because you look at the 2 performances that have stood out for me this season is how they absolutely dominated both Wolves and Leicester, and we weren't expecting maybe the games to be as one-sided as they were. But yeah, away from home, they're just not the same team. But I think at Anfield, I think with the fans, and it's quite good for those that have got a wild card. You've got 2 home games for Salah, haven't you? West Brom and Tottenham. So I agree with you. They haven't looked quite the same, and that's probably why I wouldn't captain Salah in game week. It's the early kickoff as well, so I think if there is going to be a benching for Salah, it's going to be that Crystal Palace game. Now I don't think it will happen, but Klopp took him off yesterday when it was 1-1, so I don't think he's guaranteed to start. I'm trying to think of other options. The other option actually that I do think is a good captaincy option for 14 is Harry Kane.
Okay, yeah, it's a good shout. Home to Leicester.
Yeah, I think so. In fact, he's got a good record against Leicester as well.
Ryan Baker says Grealish away to West Brom. Think of that.
Well, he tends. He's got an all right record in derbies. I do think that is a potential shout. But then, I think with the fact that it is a derby as well, it might be.
Yeah,
I don't think he'll. Yeah, I think it'll be quite a close game. I don't think there'll be many goals in it, so I'd probably avoid Grealish captaining him for that game.
Okay, so now we just have a quick plug for our live stream this coming Wednesday evening. We'll be doing our first FPL Live Show of the season during the 8 p.m. matches right here on this channel. If you were a member last year, if you were a subscriber last year, we had some brilliant funds on the Saturday afternoon for the 3 o'clock games where we basically give FPL commentary during live games. It's really good fun. This week I'll be joined by 8-time top 10k finisher Rich Clark, one of the best fantasy managers to ever play the game, and fantasy football guru Paul McNulty. So make sure you join us for that at 7:45 p.m. on Wednesday. Like I said, it's really good fun, and as you can see on our screen, we have all like flashy graphics. It's got a bit of a soccer Saturday feel. So make sure you join us on Wednesday for that. We're going to have really good fun on that one. So it's competition time for our YouTube watchers. So every week, all our YouTube watchers have a chance to win a Fantasy Football Hub mug. One of these babies, absolutely beautiful, really high quality. We're selling them too, along with other Hub merchandise in association with that FPL merch. There is a link in the description below. We're currently running a 20% off discount using coupon code FFHub20, while Hub members can get 25% off. So last week we asked who would be the highest scoring Game Week 12 player, and we also asked in which minute would Salah be brought off against Fulham. So thank you so much for everyone who entered. It doesn't look like anyone guessed the highest scoring player, which was James Maddison with 16 points. I've gone back through the chat. I did a Control and F search for Maddison. I couldn't see anyone in there. So nothing doing there. And also, believe it or not, no one guessed that Salah would be brought off in the 84th minute. So 3 people guessed the 83rd minute and 2 guessed the 85th. We have done a random draw from those 5 entries, and the winner is Andrew Rogers, who guessed the 83rd minute. So many congratulations, Andrew. DM me for your prize, which is one of these fantastic Fantasy Football Hub mugs. So for the competition this week and a chance to win one of these mugs, please like, subscribe, and then comment who will be the top FPL point scorer in Game Week 13. It is limited to 1 entry each, and if there is a tie, we'll do a random draw for the winner. I'm going Foden, Adam, for you jump in and take my pick. I'm going Foden this week. Who are you going this week?
Oh, right. I will go. I do think it'll be a City player. I think. Who should we go for? We'll go with Mahrez.
Fair enough. It's one of those. It's either going to completely bang or completely flop in it.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
These are kind of players you're going to need for that. Yeah, no, completely.
I would have gone Foden though. I quite like the Foden shot.
The Tandon says, I captained Maddison. Wow, if you did, that was a fantastic shout. Really well done on that one. Finally, we're going to take a look at the top of our FFH_Green Arrow mini league. In 10th place, Noor Boujalea. In 9th, Lou Banks. In 8th place, MC Laff. In 7th, Dan O'Connell. In 6th, Michael Helen. 5th, Tony Scarpenhead. Tony, having a bit of a nightmare. You were top for weeks, then you fell to 2nd. Now he's fallen to 5th. Martin Meltzer, who was top last week, has fallen to 4th. Will Hollin stays in 3rd. James Dayton, Game Week score of 85 points, goes up to 2nd place. And Ollie Rantala, FC Malmi Vice, 75 points. Great week. Ollie is 606th overall. So very, very well played there, Ollie. Many congratulations for being top of our mini league. So make sure, if you haven't, that you join our FPL podcast mini league. There will be a prize for first place, including a guest appearance on our first preseason podcast of next season. The mini league code is LV24ZG. That's LV24ZG. I will just put that in the chat, so if people don't have it, you can join.
I've just seen Michael Anderson posted earlier that maybe you should send a mug to Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas to confuse her even more. I did it again.
You did it
earlier.
again this afternoon.
Do you know? I don't know why Fergie keeps coming up because I don't even follow her. It's not like, So,
just for those who don't know, whenever Adam goes to tag me in anything, he tags Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas. So Fergie just keeps getting bombarded and harassed by some kind of random fantasy player from Birmingham. And she's like, what the hell? What's all this Foden banter all about? I haven't got a clue. Hasn't got the foggiest. But like we said, she wouldn't have been stupid enough to have Foden in her team anyway, would she? So
no, definitely not.
Our YouTube watchers can join using the AutoJoy link in the description below. So that is a wrap from us. Thank you so much. This has been a bit of a bumper episode. The reason why we've done a bit of a longer one, we're not going to be able to do another podcast pre Game Week 14. So we've gone into a bit more depth on this one. So thank you everyone who has stayed with us and bared with us for this bumper podcast. And many thanks as usual to all our loyal watchers and listeners for their great questions and comments. We really, really appreciate everyone's support. Adam, the best of luck to you this weekend. This midweek and weekend. Where can people get hold of you?
On Twitter at Hopcroft13.
Fantastic. So my Twitter handle is at Fergie222.
222, yeah. 222.
Fergie222. Not just at Fergie. This poor woman. So this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you liked what you watched, please press the like button. It would be great if we can get a few more likes. It'd be very much appreciated. And remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. Our handles on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok are at FFH_HQ. I forgot actually, I had a look on the TikTok the other day and remember the toilet roll the challenge right at the start of lockdown, you have to try and do. I was showing off a few toilet roll skills on there. So if you are on TikTok, everyone have a look at FFH_HQ. I do a little bit of around the world and a few keep you up using a toilet roll, which is quite cool. And our podcast Twitter handle is at FFH_Green Arrow. So make sure you give us a follow. Our website is fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, where you'll find everything you need for fantasy football, all under one roof, including player comparison tools, the fixture ticker, Opta stats, top player team reveals, points prediction tools, and much, much more, as we have demonstrated on tonight's podcast. To join the tens of thousands of other fantasy managers and sign up to the hub to use all our amazing resources, just click the top link in the description below. You will not regret it. So I will be back this coming Wednesday for FPL Wednesday Live with Rich Clark and Paul McNulty. Please join us. Amazing fun. And Adam and I will be back next Wednesday for a Christmas special. See you then. Adam, are you going to wear a jumper? Have you got a jumper?
Yeah, I'm sure I have somewhere. We'll go Christmas jumpers.
Dig them out first. Dig up something for next week. So we will see you all then. Stay safe all and good night.